July 29th. This is the policy subcommittee.
Are you sure the volume is on?
We went through this.
Okay.
Yes, we've been confirmed by IT.
Okay. I'd like for the record to state that I asked.
No, Victor was here earlier.
Wonderful.
Checked, so it was all set.
It's all been,
Thank you.
all been set. So we'll start with attendance. Go around the room and say who's here. Rachel, we'll start with you.
Rachel Santa, Director of Special Services.
Andrew Hennius, attorney for the committee.
Kenny Duba, Superintendent.
Erin Earl, School Committee Chair.
Jennifer Lima, school committee member. Does not appear that we have any citizens' comments. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from the July 1st meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, Pam, did you want to speak?
No.
Okay. Then can I get a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from July 1st, 2024.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? All right, okay. For the record, the voting members here today are myself, Dr. Earl, and Dr. Juba. Okay, so, Ken, I know you just got back. You probably haven't thought about policies for the past 2 weeks, but, so we have, we have some of the new ones that we had been working on before, and then we have some new to us ones to discuss. Do you have a preference on which way we go?
Just my suggestion, I mean, so the ones that are up here as existing,
Mm-hmm.
I know as far as the anti-harassment policy, it has to do with the Title IX.
Mm-hmm.
And we also have Title IX down at the bottom as new. I think that's something that we can talk through as far as like what changes we need to go move ahead. I know the ones with transportation, I've met with Michelle on as far as they're here as for us to review and update. There weren't anything like major within that we noticed that had to get changed prior to the school year.
Okay.
And then the surveillance policy, we actually reviewed that today again because we were talking about use of cameras.
Okay.
Nothing there either.
Okay.
So, however you want to handle it from there, B, C, D, and E, we don't have anything to put forward as far as changes regarding reviewing those policies.
So those policies are fine in light of recent
Yes.
events? There's nothing that needs to be added?
No, because when you read through them, a lot of what needs to change is procedural, which Michelle is going through right now. She's pulling, she's been going through, reviewing all of the training documents, what we have, and looking to rewrite the procedures. There's nothing within the policies that we would be changing.
There seemed to me just.
Okay, so which one are we starting with? We're starting with that one.
Well, if we
Like,
talk
let's-
about,
like,
if we
let's-
talk about
yeah.
transportation.
Well, I think
Yeah.
maybe if we could, there are two policies on here for a draft that just needed to be reviewed, so I don't know whether it's better to try to discuss those and move them off the agenda and forward, which are the inclement weather and the scheduling of district events.
Yeah, if we think we can get through those first, then do that.
Yeah, have you had the opportunity to review them?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Then I would suggest we start with those.
Yes.
Why is no one else on this one? That makes me feel like I'm in the wrong one.
In a different folder, that's why I didn't.
I'm in the
see that.
July 1st one,
Which one are you in?
the inclement weather.
Yes, July 1st.
Ah.
So we discussed this at the last meeting, and so the only outstanding questions I had on this were, do we want to add something about out-of-district communication to this and timing for students who are, coming from out of town? And did we want to add something about, we talked about recess and the temperature limits for that, but did we want to add something about inside building temperature as well?
So maybe we just start first regarding the out-of-district timing.
Okay.
So I can tell you, as far as when decisions are being made, if we're going to be canceling school because of inclement weather, this region, southern region, superintendents are all having those conversations prior, night before, as soon as we know that there's gonna be inclement weather coming, and we talk about like what we're doing. Obviously, the coordination with Jamestown happens even more so
Mhm.
because of the students coming over. I know there was an instance earlier in the year that there was an error in communication of who was sending something out and how that communication was getting out that morning.
Okay.
And it ended up going out later, and that was just because there was a mishap within Jamestown being able to send something out to the high school students, not being able to get out, and then notifying me and me getting something out.
Okay.
So that we know now,
Okay.
and like that if something's going out, it has to go out through here.
Okay.
And it was something that even when I was in Jamestown, but we thought we had, when I was there, a way around it, not to have to rely on North Kingstown to send communication out, but that didn't work.
Okay.
So, and we realized it that day when that happened, and so as far as communication with Jamestown, which I think that would be a priority as one of the districts, because that's where, there's a good percentage of students coming because this is their high school, that has worked out. As far as out of district, we have students coming from all different CTE areas. A lot, we just really, we put the information out on the news as soon as we can, and everyone knows to watch it from there, as well as communication that's going out through Aspen to families.
Okay.
There's, to try to communicate with all the other different towns that are coming in through CTE, that's be a little bit challenging for us to do, to coordinate anything. So I think, as far as now, we are working within our region of talking with superintendents within the region of if we're canceling school, there's delays. And I think that we can put something in there regarding that there'll be communication between superintendent or designee within North Kingstown, along with other superintendents or designees of the southern region schools. If you think that's necessary.
I mean, I think for when we're talking about, this top part is talking about timing.
Mhm.
So I don't know if the timing, because this is about when decisions are being made, and so I almost feel like it shouldn't be out of district timing, it should be under communication.
Communication, yeah.
And so I would suggest we move it there, and then we talk about that the superintendent will communicate with the superintendent from the Jamestown schools, information, and then that a communication will go out from our district to those students, as soon as possible or something. Because it could go both ways too. I remember a couple of situations where the Jamestown students weren't able to get here, even though we were still having school, and where does that communication come from? Is that coming from Jamestown, or should that be coming from us, even though, so I think it's more of a communication issue than a timing issue.
Any communication that needs to go to the Jamestown residents that are attending the high school needs to come from here because of the student information system. Because what happens is when the students leave, their information isn't always still kept within the student information system over there. So NK would be the communication.
So I think just a simple sentence, just talking about, that collaboration between the two superintendents, and then if, in the communication going out, even if it's not our school.
And what I'll do, I can put something in there,
Can you?
because that way
Yeah.
I just,
Just
just
like a
like what
sentence.
it is that we do.
I'll move the yellow part down, just so you know where to put it, because I don't think it should go where it was.
I am wondering if we should put a statement here for students who attend out-of-district schools that essentially will follow whatever North Kingstown decides.
Like students coming from
So
CTE
for instance, if I
programs and
have
stuff?
if I have a student that goes to Pathways, which is in a completely different district essentially, they may be having school, but we won't be transporting them.
Okay.
Do you
yeah,
know-
I think that's
that
important
makes
to have
sense?
in
Yeah.
there.
So when you
And
wrote
that's-
out a district timing, it made me think that maybe we should put a statement that we're always gonna follow North Kingstown's.
For so all out of district transportation
Will be based
follows the transportation
of North Kingstown.
of North
Yeah.
Kingstown.
Especially here because we do a lot of our own.
Yep.
And
That might be a
I
different.
believe that was also in the letter that I had put out earlier in the year regarding
I believe it,
early dismissal and all. I had that in there regarding transportation. I can go back and check, and if it's not, I'll add it in there.
I thought you
But I
did too,
thought it
but I
was in
didn't see
there.
it in here and I read through it and
Yeah,
I'm
I
like, you know,
don't-
maybe we should add that.
You're talking about the one that you sent out earlier
Yeah, and
this
if
year?
not, I'll add it in there.
I would just add a header regarding transportation. Like, and then we can put that information under it.
There wasn't anything in there about like students who are attending out of district schools.
There wasn't anything
No,
about
I have that
following-
dropped into the
okay.
folder, yeah.
Yeah, so that will be, we'll add that into
yeah.
that letter as well.
So we want that maybe. Jen, maybe instead of, see where it says like purpose philosophy, and then it goes into policy, I feel like there should be a header under policy, like right where my cursor is,
Mhm.
about like cancellations, early dismissals and postponements, and, cause that's what this section's kinda talking about, and then,
The other one
cause
should be
there's some
recess.
things, yeah, cause then there's
Yeah.
some stuff about recess and some stuff, it's not all the
Yep.
same concept, so I would add a header there. In that timing section too, I just wanna reiterate, 9 PM is really hard and late for families, for childcare for the next day, for coverage at work, things like that, and so I know that it's hard to make decisions, before, but personally, I think for like families, it's, if it could be earlier, that is better, like I know that's not always the case, but like if we know at 5 PM we can cancel, or we need to cancel, like I feel like that is the best thing to do is to communicate as early as possible so people can arrange for things, but
I'll be honest, I would
Yeah.
put it at 7 o'clock, just because typically, and I'm just gonna go
I'll
off of.
compromise with 7.
Yeah,
I want 5, but
5 o'clock's too early.
9's late though.
I will
Yeah.
tell you, 5 o'clock is too early to make that
Yeah.
decision, because what normally we're doing, the superintendents are communicating with each other,
Mhm.
we're also watching the weather to get the most up-to-date weather, because you never want to cancel and then find out the storm's changing, because you can't, it's very difficult to
Can't
pull that
uncancel
back.
it, yeah.
And in any of these decisions, you're not gonna make everyone happy, but it's it would be really unfortunate if we're making our call early on, the weather changes, and we could have school.
Yep.
So I would say 7.
Yep.
And again, you know, I
And
know
it's
we're
not
putting this as
saying, it's
policy,
saying
but there
whenever,
might be times
it's
it might
saying
be-
whenever possible,
Right.
it's not mandating it, I just think that concept of like, hey, let's
Earlier the better.
have a philosophy of trying, if we know, and it's very clear, like, communicate to the family so that they can make plans.
And I believe in that, and
work
that's
and-
something
yeah.
that, you know, it
That's all.
was my other district in here,
Yeah.
try to make sure that it's getting out early as possible.
Jen, on that third bullet, it says decisions, that talk about early dismissal or canceling, did we also wanna talk about, delayed start? Like, should delayed start be listed there too?
I don't know, it's saying those would be made by noon that school day, so I don't know if a delayed
Yeah,
start
but
flies
well,
in there.
delayed start isn't in any of these, that's, I guess, what I was thinking, you know what I mean?
Yeah. School cancellation or delayed start. I'll add it up top.
Yeah. I would say school cancellation, delayed start, or early dismissal, like those are the 3 things, right, that we're talking about?
So I'll say decisions to cancel or postpone, delay. The start will be made the night before school day, commuted by 7 PM. Decisions that need to be made on the morning of event will be commuted by 5:30, and decisions that necessitate early dismissal or canceling of after-school activities will be made by noon on that school day.
Whatever, yeah. That makes more sense.
And just so the committee's aware, if there's going to be an early dismissal, noon, putting in the policy, noon is good as a safe zone, but that decision actually has to be made much earlier in the day. Because if you're going to do an early dismissal and you're gonna have the school day count with ride, you have to make sure lunch is provided, if you're in school so many hours prior and lunch is provided. So typically with an early dismissal, that decision's gonna get made earlier than noon.
Do you wanna change it?
No, I would
Okay.
leave noon, because we're also talking about after school activities. So,
Okay.
but I'm just letting the committee know,
Okay.
like, that's actually gonna happen much earlier in the day, just because of the planning that has to be put in place and providing lunch to students.
This is a small thing,
Whereas the transportation, did you,
it's not in there yet, I don't think.
yeah, so,
Put it maybe,
I would put it along with communication, because it's about communicating what's going on and happening. I'll just, we can just kinda.
So I'll just add a thing and you can go back in and add it later.
I'm gonna, just gonna do it
this is a small thing, but so we reference Aspen, which I know is our system right now, but for like a policy, like, would it be better just to put like the official district, like,
just
communication
say
thing, so that way if,
Student management system.
yeah.
Yeah, student
So that way if it
information
changes
system.
from Aspen, you don't have to go through every policy and update, you know, like, it just kind of will make it be more ever.
So through the student management system?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll follow the North Kingstown guidelines, maybe?
And same thing with Facebook, maybe put NKSD website and social media
Social media,
pages,
yeah.
just same thing, like if things evolve, you know, end up with like MySpace in your policy.
What about the inside building temperature?
Let's just look, 'cause what is the temperature that we're going to use?
How do you make the decision
Does
now?
RIDE,
Bride was less than
Right,
helpful
was
with this.
very, very.
I saw
general.
something on, maybe it was NEAR, or NEAs, like the National Teacher, I'm gonna look it up, hold on.
Comfortable conditions for the greatest number of students and employees. Warm weather temperatures will be in the range of 74 to 77. Cool weather temperatures will be in the range of 68 to 73.
Where's that from?
I don't know, I just Googled it.
I would like to just look into that a little bit more before adding that into a policy.
Okay.
I mean, I'm good with everything else in the policy, but putting something like that, I would wanna be careful, because you have a filling temperature, you have indoor temperature, you have, if we put a temperature in there and all of a sudden it hits that, and it's really not very, you know what I mean, if we say 80 degrees, but then in the building it doesn't really feel like 80, maybe it's less, or just because of shade. I don't wanna have to be held to something very specific, then you have to dismiss the children, even if it's not unhealthy.
I think it's, the way that it's written, it's more about not dismissing but relocating as necessary, and then also we can definitely write it like consider if the inside if the inside temperature is X, you know, teachers should be communicating that to their principals, and then principals could be communicating, like, I think it's more about the process for me of, if you're sitting in a classroom and you're concerned about the temperature of your classroom and your students' well-being and your well-being, like, at what point can you say, hey, I'm concerned about this? Like, what's that? Like, I think it's just to give a little bit of guidance in that communication. It's not an automatic, but a, like, you know, something like that I think would be helpful.
And they do, I mean, people already voice that.
Yeah.
And there's.
We're talking about this stuff because we had
you
a
know.
problem in a building
Mhm.
where that doesn't have AC. So that's why, like, it's not, this isn't like coming from imaginary
No,
lands.
no,
Like,
I understand what
yeah.
happened with WMS at the beginning of last year.
No, DMS.
DMS.
It was both,
Oh, fun.
it was more
Yep.
the other one, but.
Yeah. So that's why, like, I feel like it's just giving some sort of, because I know you'll do the right thing, but again, like, just putting something in policy to give some guidelines or guidance on.
There's
That.
actually in something, the United Federation of Teachers has a thing that talking about what the OSHA regulations are. It recommends the temperatures in occupied classrooms be between 68 to 76 degrees.
Yeah, that's
The
the
state
same.
regulations have long set a minimum temperature, they set no maximum.
I can smell OSHA right now.
Because it's not just hot either, it would be cold too, so. Okay, so you wanna look into that and then we'll revisit that point?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Looks like some other states use their like Department of Health too. So like it's probably either, you know, if Bride doesn't have it, it's OSHA or probably the Department of Health would like give us a good reference for what might be appropriate in Rhode Island.
What about the recess stuff?
So I had that from last time, I was just sending you regarding this. Yeah, this is what I had sent last time as the guidance that we were. That I had. And those were the temperatures I just had shared with Colleen as well, as far as using as guidelines, because RIDE didn't have anything very specific for us to use.
Okay,
For that fourth or second to last paragraph where it talks about children with special health conditions, it says like may need special accommodations on hot days or cold days, participating outdoor recess, all applicable provisions of a student's IEP or 504 shall be followed at all times. But like, I don't know if those two sentences are connected, like Rachel on that one, like as far as, like you don't want people to be like, oh, you have asthma, you can't go outside, like that's not the case for all students, and they might not have a 504 IEP for that, but it might be too hot for them to be safe outdoors at
They
recess,
would all have
and
medical
so,
plans for that.
okay. So I think we should reference, it's not just IEPs and 504s.
Right.
It could be any medical plan.
Yeah.
Or doctor's orders.
Or
even if
doctor's
it- even if it
orders.
wasn't a-
Yeah,
even if it
yeah.
Which
wasn't a
we
medical
may be
plan.
made into a medical plan, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we wanna add that language for sure. And then I think we should put a sentence in talking about how like they should be provided like an alternative for indoor recess. Like,
That's what they do now.
yeah. Trying to get that.
and then that last paragraph, Ken, is that something that is the current practice?
Especially, cause you have in the parent guardian request, it's a documented weather-related medical condition.
Okay.
But again, that would all go back to a medical plan if
Mhm.
they have one.
Okay. So the only thing that we're missing then is the temperature for the inside, and that's something you're gonna regroup on?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sure you'll find something that seems like 68 to 77 is that kind of like from the 8 or 9 different
Yep.
school districts that I looked at, it seems like that's the range. But we can find them, I'm sure.
So do we want to hold this here, or do we wanna move it forward with that fill in the blank?
I'm comfortable moving it forward, knowing that Ken will just fill in whatever temperature he deems, right? Jen, just up at the top, I had highlighted the word classes. Should it be school? Like, I feel like we don't use the word classes like that.
Yeah, it's not just classes though, because we are talking about like
Yeah.
after school, so
School, like,
it's maybe district programming, district.
superintendent.
Well, above we're talking about NKSD operations, so would we wanna
Yeah,
just
use
use
that
the
same
same
word.
language?
Yeah, like, I just, because it was too specific, so.
Alright, Ken, are you good with this?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to move this forward with the addition of the temperatures and the other
I just
revisions that we.
sent an email to a few other people just to see if they had any other resources, cause I'm seeing the same thing, you know, like
Yeah.
Erin was saying, like, anything above 80 is what they're recommending as, like, would be healthy conditions.
Okay. So with these revisions that we just made, plus that one addition, I'll make a motion to move it forward.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay. So the other one was the scheduling of district events. And we did get some feedback with some questions, which was good. Somebody had made a comment about, under the part for safety drills, where we have off-site evacuation and lockdown drills. And I wasn't sure if you knew how that tied into this. Or maybe they added them, maybe that's what it was.
I think I would just keep that statement as far as like safety drills. I wouldn't go into detail of what those drills are.
So like one, safety drills which occur, just safety drills period, or safety drills which occur 1 to 2 times per year? Cause I don't think like the intent is like a fire drill, or it's more like the ones that only happen a few
Right.
times.
Yeah, I would just say safety drills which occur 1 to 2 times per year,
Period.
and just leave it.
Okay.
Where are you?
It's the last bullet at the top of page 2.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay, and then there was a question about, and I do see that assessment is on here twice. One says centralized tests or other assessments, and the other says test quizzes or other assessments, and there was a question about like any assessment, or is it like the like the standardized assessments?
What do we mean by centralized tests?
In my mind, that's like a RICAS
SATs,
or an
RICAS,
SAT
Yeah,
or
yeah.
something like that.
So I would just put state assessments over there, and I
Okay.
would, so I would actually do away with that bullet, and then just put tests, quizzes.
I think it's beyond state assessment. Well, I don't know, maybe this does fall into state assessments, but don't we do in school PSATs and SATs?
Yes,
you
but those
look
are
at
considered state
The
assessments.
two aspects
Yeah.
are defined
Yep.
down on the next page.
I would,
What about like our like STAR assessments and things like that that we do in class?
those would be local, considered local assessments, so I would just, that bullet, just have in there tests, quizzes, local assessments, or state assessments.
Okay, and take off that first
Yeah,
one.
take that second bullet
Yeah,
away.
or
Yeah,
other
it's
local /
redundant.
state assessments.
Would you say kind of local / state assessment?
Local / state, and staff would know a local assessment meaning that would be your STAR, your progress monitoring.
We both added the L at the same time, Andrew.
Sorry.
Yes.
I was waiting to see if you moved on. I thought you did, so I said I'll pop it in.
And then the question was asked about elementary often runs grade level performances for families during the school day. Do all these need to be scheduled after school now? Does that include grade 5 promotions and kinder celebrations? I don't think that was the intent of that when we talked about this. It was more just to raise awareness when scheduling events that, you know, daytime events can be difficult for some. I don't think the intent was to say that it can't be done. I think it was just to put that in as a thought.
I need to consider the time of day.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're also
when
making an
it's
assumption
being
that
scheduled.
parents and guardians only work 9 to 5, which
Right,
is not
it's
true.
not true, right, yeah.
So I think I brought this one up, and I think it was just the concept of thinking about when you're doing events, when you're inviting parents and guardians in, thinking about when, but then also like say you're doing something for kindergarten, say you're doing 2 or 3 things for kindergartners, like not doing them all
At the same time.
at noon.
Yep.
3 times so that the same parents and guardians can't go. Or, you know, like it's more of that, just being thoughtful or how you're packaging it so that students aren't there and their people aren't there and they feel
Right.
badly about
Yep.
it. Like I think that was more of the intent. So it's definitely not to prevent them from holding things during the day, but more just thinking about it. So we could write it. Move your mouse, I can't see the word, thanks. Here, I'll work on that bullet check, give me a second.
maybe like varying,
Yeah, I was trying to think
Yeah.
of like something, yeah,
rotating, or what else in this one?
I'm just finishing that one sentence.
Should it, it's not necessarily a conflict with work schedules too, like it could be a conflict.
Yeah, I'm not-
So maybe we
yeah.
just schedule these during the school day may limit parent guardian's ability to participate fully, and take out that part.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just already said.
You know, when possible,
Yeah, I have it, I
there
just
you go.
haven't put it in yet.
Okay.
Yes.
I was gonna say to promote family engagement. That's perfect.
Right.
Okay, so consideration should also be given when planning events to which parents/guardians are invited to attend. Schedules during the school day may limit parent or guardians' ability to participate fully. It can be beneficial to offer events at varying times to help engage a wider array of families and support their meaningful participation in school activities.
So delete this. Can we just change these little asterisks and make them parentheses within the bullets? They're weird, like,
Yes.
I don't wanna have to reference and like go up and down. So the first one is on, I'll do the double asterisk one.
Will you take a comment from the audience?
Sure.
Can there something be about sufficient notice to families of when the events occur? Like something vague, but making
Mhm.
sure that there's adequate notice, especially if they're during the day?
Yeah.
or
Yep,
whatever?
I think that's good.
Yeah. When, 2 weeks? Ish?
I'm not,
Yeah,
a minimum, I would say, 2
Yeah.
weeks.
Like not the
I
day
would-
before
Yeah.
is where you're
No,
going.
no, that's, it's a very, it's a very valid point, yeah.
I would put a minimum on there of when it goes out.
What's
A
that?
minimum.
I said I would put a minimum.
Yeah. I think like it's just, and it's also, it's an ideally, right, like,
Right,
you know,
well,
it's.
But also too, if you're planning an event, most events are planned
Yeah.
most likely more than 2 weeks ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're planning a concert, a school play, even an elementary school play, I mean, you're not saying, okay, 2 weeks we're gonna do this,
Okay.
so I think even 3 weeks,
Mhm.
a minimum of 3 weeks.
Okay. Yeah, we can add that.
For,
I mean, like, the curriculum nights, the college nights they have at high
Yeah.
school, those are planned, a lot of the events, like we sat here at last meeting and said,
Mhm.
beginning of this summer,
Yeah.
Oh,
July,
yeah.
we sat planning for what's happening.
Yeah.
yeah, I think just because it's planned, that doesn't mean it's communicated, and so I think that's the,
Right,
make
that's what I'm saying,
sure,
right,
yeah.
that's what I mean, like, I think
Yeah.
even saying 3 weeks
Yep.
is sufficient on our end of making sure it gets out there, but it could be even earlier.
Yep. Yeah, it's tough. I mean, some families it's 6 months. You know, like if the, like I'm thinking of my friend, but that seems.
Yeah, that's extreme.
Yeah.
I mean, like.
But I do know
And
some
most
folks that
is
are like
at least
nurses
2
and doctors though, and
I
they,
think
it's
2
that
weeks
early
is
for them.
at
Yeah.
least 2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's as early as possible, like if you're booked and you know you have an event, like communicate as early as possible, but, you know, really it shouldn't be less than 2 weeks, that's really hard for families.
So when planning these events, notification of date, time, and location should be made as early as possible, ideally no later than 3 weeks before an event.
A good minimum,
Hmm?
minimum of
Yeah.
3 weeks.
So say ideally a minimum of 3 weeks before the event. So going back to the assessment one, right, so like we're saying this is the stuff that we have control over, but the exception was that state, example SAT, AP are not bound by this policy, so maybe we say tests, quizzes, or other local assessments.
Even with the state assessments, we're given a window and then we choose when we're
Okay.
giving it. And the state also is not going, most likely, I mean, when they're scheduling, they're looking at that
Yeah.
as well, you know, RIDE's looking at that as far as, any religious holidays that would prevent the testing happening.
So
But we're
you're
given,
saying-
we're given a window from RIDE of within this time period, and then we schedule within the district if we're
Even,
going
like,
RIDE.
even for the SATs, what about AP testing?
The AP testing, I wanna say that we schedule that as well. That you're given a time period and then you schedule it within in-house.
So there's no exception to,
You know what, it doesn't hurt to put the clause in there, I'm
Okay.
just letting you know, like,
Okay.
we're given a window and then internally we can
There's always a
select
window,
those dates.
and then we schedule it.
Yeah, the AP I think as well, I'm not certain on that one, but.
I thing has a tighter window than like RICAS, but yeah.
I feel like we could say it better
I
than this
know.
sentence though, like,
It's very.
like when choice is given for state, national, international competitions, like, you know, like whenever possible, we should be trying
Mhm.
to choose to not inconvenience students,
Maybe we say where the district
like
has the
without,
option
yeah,
to
without
schedule.
control, like when it's within our control.
Yeah.
Like, and then if it's not in our control, it's not in
Yeah.
our control, but like if we have choices, we should be choosing.
Yes?
Yeah, that's fine. Did we put the thing in about, I don't know where it would like overlap with the sports people, but I keep coming back to that thing the student said at the DEI advisory committee meeting about like how he felt like he had to go to school so that he could practice for football.
I think that belongs in attendance because that's part of the attendance, cause we talked about this at the last one.
Yeah,
because
okay.
It's, if they're not, like, that's technically an excused absence, but
Yeah,
if you're absent, you can't practice.
Yeah.
So there needs to be an exemption to the attendance policy to allow for, like,
practice.
Practice.
For if it is not in conflict with their,
Right.
whatever the reason that there is, they should
Right.
be able to still
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll put that in the
yeah,
other one.
yeah, I think that lives there.
Alright,
Cause here we're saying when it's within our control, we're not even gonna schedule.
yep,
that.
you're right, yeah, that makes sense.
Maybe we just say this, on days specified as religious and cultural observations when scheduling all such events listed in. And then we can take it out of the other things.
For this policy, you wanna stick straight to just scheduling, right? You don't wanna talk about like equitable access for events or anything?
No,
You wanna
that's
do-
gonna be, that's a
separate?
separate
Alright.
policy, yeah. And I think we started one, the.
Yeah, alright, yep. There's like 4 different event
Mhm.
ones. That might be something we might wanna consider
Consolidating.
is, yeah, just so that it makes it easier for like building administrators and folks to have one reference,
Mm.
or something to think about. Because if my brain's doing that, then other
Other
people's
people's will
brains might
too,
do that
yeah.
too, yeah.
So you're saying take the draft that we had of,
We don't have to do it right now, but
Yeah,
maybe
but you-
long-term
yep.
consolidating them. To just be like a NKSD
let's-
events,
yep.
scheduling,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera.
I thought we had started a draft on that.
We can't talk about it anyways,
Yeah.
so it doesn't matter.
Okay.
So is there anything that we need on this one, or can we move it forward?
You
anything
good?
else.
Okay. Okay, so I'll just add another purpose on the policy.
I added it,
Perfect.
no, you should edit it,
Okay.
like, but I tried to add
Okay.
something for you so you wouldn't have to write it.
Okay.
Like, I just put in a really simple purpose and a simple philosophy, but feel free to change them.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to move this forward.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay. So that leaves us with the Title IX anti-harassment and the transportation ones. Which one do you wanna dig into first?
For probably the Title IX one, cause isn't that in August 1st situation? And
So-
it's July 29th, so no?
Yeah, Andrew's firm had provided a template for their recommended Title IX policy with the new guidelines updated. And that is in the drive with a few things that we have to determine how we want to. There are some things that are like optional or like district specific. So I started the draft, the red line Title IX policy. And the areas that are in gray or yellow are the ones, that need to be determined. The other thing that I started to do was we had talked about pulling Title IX out of our anti-discrimination and leaving anti-discrimination by itself. And so I started going through that policy to update it, to pull these out, and then I realized that these two policies are differently structured, and I didn't know if it made sense to take the template for the Title IX policy and utilize that for
The anti-harassment.
the anti-harassment, in order to keep them consistent.
What are your other districts doing, Andrew?
So, a couple things here, with the new Title IX, we have to keep our prior Title IX policy in effect, because anything, even if it's reported after August 1 that occurred before August 1 will still be dealt with under the old policy. Anything that occurs after August 1, would go under the new policy. I do know, and Dr. Duva and I had talked a little bit about this, I know, after the ACB had originally been passed, the administration had just voiced some concerns about the nature of the types of investigations that it was having to do outside the scope of Title IX, because ACB, was broader than just Title IX. So, I think, I don't wanna speak for Dr. Duva, but I think the thought process was that maybe we could just focus on the Title IX and have that investigation process as required, but then with other forms of discrimination, either, a different or a modified, investigation process that allows them to do things a little bit more quickly. Is that accurate, Ken?
That is. It's just that this policy that was put together along with all of the investigation is an extremely timely process. And it is what we have to follow for Title IX. If we have a separate policy for Title IX, then other harassment, discrimination, our thought is if we can condense some of that, we can get through an investigation a lot faster than what we have to follow for Title IX.
So, aside from the investigation, is there anything from the non-Title IX harassment that wouldn't follow the policy guidelines here?
No, I think it was I think the investigation process is real, obviously, we still want a policy that determines that even if it's not Title IX, harassment, if
Yeah.
it's still harassment, we're going to enforce it. I think the difficulty the admin was having is the Title IX investigation process is just, can be so onerous, is that it was getting bogged down, not just in Title IX,
It's the
but.
number of timelines you have to follow, the back and forth you have to go through between us and the complainant, and
Yeah, sharing of the paperwork
a lot
and
of
additional
back
time.
and forth, and within 10 days, you have this, and provide evidence. If somebody wants to come back with something else, it's, they're gonna follow it for Title IX, but is that necessary to follow it for everything else that we're doing?
Right, so I guess that's my question, so
So-
the investigation is different, whether it's
Right.
Title IX or
Right.
something else, but other than that, the process is effectively the same, correct?
Wasn't, remind me if I might have lost this in the journey of the past 2 years, but wasn't the goal, because of some of the recommendations that we got from some of the different reports, to have a centralized, like not to have the separate policies? Like,
It
didn't
would-
we do that on purpose?
That was Claire's vision,
Based
was
on-
to put
yeah.
everything together, into one policy. I think that in
Because of
prac-
the overlap, right? Because like you
Yep.
might be going down this direction and all of a sudden you realize, oh wait, based on what I learned, it's Title IX, or vice versa, and so that's where I thought,
And we see that
It
in some of
was-
these
yeah.
policies, you know, I think we're always referencing
Yeah.
ACB as, you know, but I think that in practice, the complaint that we got from the administration is that now this, again, I'm just gonna use the term onerous, this onerous investigation process is really bogging us down outside of the Title IX. And I think that was the desire to sort of, if we could cull those areas out and have them follow the more traditional, investigation process, as opposed to, like Dr. Zuba said, you know, sharing everything and then waiting to hear back, and then sharing everything back and waiting to hear back. I mean, it does take a long time.
I think, but for the purposes of today, right, we wanna make sure that we are in compliance with what goes into effect on August 1st for Title IX. So I feel like that's where we start, and then we could
That's-
always,
That's
So
this policy
this,
right
decouple
here.
it,
this
yeah.
is just
Yep,
Title
that's
IX.
this
Yeah.
policy
This
right
relates
here.
strictly Title IX,
Aubrey.
yeah.
and it just has a few things that we have to decide.
Yeah, so I feel like that's where we start,
Okay.
and then we can go from there.
To the other one.
Yeah,
Okay.
because just with the timing, and also making sure to, like Andrew said, somehow like archive, whether it's like on the same document and you put it underneath, so like incidents that occurred before 8/1, whatever, it's this,
Maybe even something in
or,
bold on top of each
Yeah.
of these
Yeah.
policies, you know, so that someone's clear if the
or
incident
link it
occurred.
or something.
I would go at the top.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay, so there were two templates that were provided for Title IX. One included gender and pregnancy under Title IX, and one did not. I went with the one that included gender and pregnancy, and that's what this template is based on. So if somebody has an issue with that, we should talk about that now, because that's what this policy covers.
And that's what he was added, 'cause there was an email, right, Andrew, that,
Yeah, I think the
Yeah,
original
in there
policy we sent
for-
out did not include the pregnancy piece, and then it was just a follow-up. If you were interested in that, we included the language as well. And most have gone
but
with
you
that.
sent that, and that's.
Yeah.
what-
Yes,
Yep.
and that's
Yeah,
what I
that makes
used, yeah.
sense, yeah. Why
So
am I in a document that none of you read? That makes me nervous.
you should be in a Word document, red line Title IX model policy, because Andrew uses Word.
Well, that's the problem.
This is true.
Okay.
So the gray areas are the areas where we have to like effectively fill in the blank. So the one where it says inquiries about the Title IX may be referred to, in here it lists the name, address, this and that, like is that, our Title IX coordinator could change. So is having the person's name and title in there required, or can we just say, you know, see the district website for where to find that information?
I have no problem with see the district, because that's, as long as whatever, if that's where the updated information is always going to be stored, then yes. Yep, because you're right, putting down here, Andrew Henny is just the Title IX coordinator,
Right.
that's no good if I'm no longer here.
Right, right.
Yep.
And right now, we have that information on our website.
Yep.
Right, so we're gonna edit that part.
Mm-hmm. So I'm just gonna put NKSD's Title IX coordinator information can be found on the district website at www.nksd.net. Or even just say district website, I mean, I think we need to put what the district website is.
Yeah, as much more,
Yes.
as much information as you can give in here to link it to that would be.
Yeah, to help people find. I'm just trying to find
So,
it, and
yeah,
it's
on
not.
it's on the NK Stay Safe, when you go in
On
and
the
do a
Stay
search.
Safe tab,
Yeah, if you
yep.
do a search for Title IX, it comes up under NK Stay Safe and the Title IX.
It's on the top too, in the yellow, like right here. See it?
So same thing with the policy and grievance procedures. Is this specifically, my question was, specifically referencing just ACB? Or would we also include like the bullying policy, the dating violence policy? Like where would we link that to?
Are they all under the same tab on the?
They're all under policies.
I think you could just list. I think you can just list the policy itself, the policy link rather. Excuse me.
It's like the
Somebody
website link.
t- Somebody told me they didn't wanna do links in a policy. Did I imagine that?
Well, because if you
It's
do
not
have links, the
verbal,
links
so then they
change.
change, yeah.
That's why you gotta
As long as the links work.
be careful.
Um,
I wouldn't put anything into a policy that could be something that we change.
That's why I say. That's why I would just link it to NKSD policies, and
Okay.
then that way.
Okay.
At some point, we should probably go through too and look at like the
Grouping.
naming groupings,
Mhm.
yeah, to make it easier to navigate. Like I know South Kingstown's done a nice job of
Yep.
how they organize theirs, and ours are, as we created new ones, like some of their lettering is not consistent with like that grouping, so we should take a look at that as a committee.
And then same thing, to report information about conduct, please refer to, and I'm gonna refer to the Stay Safe website, cause that's where all that information is. Okay, so same thing, applicable versions of these policies and procedures are available from the Title IX coordinator and so I'll link to the website there.
Yeah, I would just do the policy website.
So reporting, report provides notice to the district of an allegation or concern about sex discrimination, harassment, or retaliation. There are no time limits on reporting, however, if the respondent is no longer, reports may be made using any of the following options. So we need to list what our reporting options are for somebody to file a complaint.
Wait, what page are you on?
I don't know, cause I don't have page numbers.
There's page numbers.
Let's
It's
see.
page 7.
Oh. I was just gonna say you missed something on page 3.
I was gonna say, didn't you just do that?
This is because we're using a doc.
It's gonna come back to Word, isn't it?
So you,
I filled in all the
on
blanks.
page 3 under scope, the
You did
applicable
circle
version
link.
of those policies.
Oh, I need to
procedures
fill
are-
that link in, yep.
Okay.
Yep,
But I thought you just typed something.
above.
You put the NK whatever
Yeah.
above. In like a different part.
Yeah, cause we had to
Got it.
fill it in up there too, I did
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
fill it
Alright,
in
so we
there.
just need to fill it
Yep.
in.
I thought I saw your cursor moving in that area,
Yeah.
that's what I was like,
Alright, so that you'll fix, and then I'll put it in yellow.
So I'm getting a message on the top that says unsaved changes to drive. Is this the
No.
changes that you're making, is it actually saving?
Should be.
Because on my computer, it's
Yeah, it's
in
not
red
having-
saying unsaved
Yeah.
changes.
Your changes are safe but may not be reflected if opened in Microsoft Office. Docs will keep trying to save.
So I just wanna make sure the work you're doing actually is.
I'm gonna do it.
Okay, good.
I'm just gonna convert it to a Google Doc. We'll change it back for you, Andrew. I just converted that doc to a Google Doc and then shared it with all of you. It's the exact same thing, it's just will like save different than what
Is it in
the,
that folder?
Did you just send it?
yeah, I just sent it, I just shared it, I don't know if it's in the
Yep,
folder.
I see it, yeah.
Yeah, it is, it's still there.
And, yep, the changes are there, okay.
Yep, so we're
Perfect.
good. But that will, at least we
Yep.
know it works like that and we'll, remember stuff happen.
Okay, so back to reporting. Are our options only on the website? Like, what are the options that we're saying that people can make a report through?
Okay, so we've got the safe.
So right now, we are requesting that people use the forms that are on the website.
Okay,
Because that way when the forms are used, we know they're being sent to the correct
okay.
people.
So there aren't any options, there's one.
I would keep it to that, because that way we know that the reports are being filled out. They then get automatically sent to the Title IX coordinator and other administrators.
Could there be an alternative for people who want to report that don't have access to,
I mean, they can call, put
yeah,
in through.
could that be an alternative,
call.
like to call the
To
Title IX
call
coordinator?
their Title IX
Mhm.
coordinator or building administrator.
Yeah, cause I was thinking, what if like somebody doesn't have access to the computer, or what if, you know?
Yeah. Well, also, like the complainant's name is mandatory on the form. And so, like just thinking about if someone's not comfortable providing all the information, like you don't wanna put up barriers for,
I thought that form was changed so that it wasn't mandatory.
I'm staring at a red asterisk.
Yeah, that was the whole point, was so that the complaints could be submitted anonymously.
It looks like it's mandatory at least. Everything else is optional except for name.
Where,
I'm on our website under
oh,
Title IX.
cause Title IX requires complainants to identify themselves.
Is that still the case in?
Yeah, that's why
That's what I'm
now
saying.
they've got the structure for our confidential employee, which I think we had emailed back and forth about, Jen. There's a new provision in here that if you designate a confidential employee, that individual can have a confidential conversation with that person,
Mhm.
take advantage of some things that the district might offer without making a formal complaint or
Mhm.
having to name themselves. But again, that's optional as well, it's if that's what you guys wanna do.
You know, the other forms of complainant's name is optional, but for Title IX, it's not.
Yeah.
I just wanted to, the bully form, and these are all required now too. We changed that so that people could submit a form anonymously.
We can't talk about that right now.
I know, okay.
Back to this policy, so we're gonna put the form
Yeah,
and I would say maybe the Title IX coordinator, like, or by contacting the Title IX coordinator, cause then at least the Title IX coordinator can encourage them to fill out the form, but at
Mhm.
least it gets, like, if technology's a barrier or something, they have another alternative option.
okay, so those are our two options. So then, Andrew, you wanna explain what this confidential employee thing is?
Yep. Just pull it down. So this is an option, again, you don't have to have it, but I know a couple of districts that have taken advantage of it. It, as we were saying, it gives an individual the opportunity to meet with this confidential employee without necessarily filing a formal Title IX complaint. But it does also give that individual access to any services that the district might offer otherwise, you know, even in the context of a full Title IX. So if I feel that someone has violated Title IX, you know, against me, but I don't wanna file a formal complaint, I can go to that confidential employee, I can explain it, and that confidential employee would have the authority to not only counsel me, but offer, you know, offer supportive measures or other things, if that's what you guys choose to do.
And the confidential employees/employees is different from the Title IX coordinator.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
Yep.
my question would be like, who would be
Yeah,
designated?
this is what we
Yeah.
get. And I'm just so you know, Jen and I had this
Yeah.
conversation. Warwick did opt for this, but of course Warwick is so big, they have a ton of different options. So they were actually they made the human resource director the confidential employee, but only because they have separate Title IX investigators elsewhere. So that is, you know, a question for smaller districts.
Mm.
Yep.
Would you want it to be someone, well,
Cause it can't be the superintendent,
yeah,
Can't be the assistant, 'cause
can't
he's
be the
assisting
assistant.
HR director with the Title IX, so.
I mean, it could be a, like, building level administrator, if that was something you were.
are you allowed to have more than one?
Actually, a great question. I believe you are. Yep. Because you can designate specific employees as confidential employees, so you could. But then again, you want to be careful at the building, you know, because you want your principal to know, you know, I report to my principal, are they a confidential employee or do they have an
I
obligation to
wouldn't
pass
have
it
it.
up?
Mhm.
So-
Have it,
Yeah.
building administrator.
Yeah, central would be preferable, to be honest with you. It's just gonna be, ooh,
Well, let's see, we have,
Where does Rachel fall?
Well, that's the only other person I would consider.
Yeah.
yeah, there's central admin,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
and she left, so.
So, it's you. I know. That's what happens when you
We
leave
all
a
know
meeting
we all know that
early.
rule.
Yeah.
No, I think structurally that makes sense until, ideally, we would hire the Title IX, like that position that we have out that we're searching for, and then once that person is in place, then Stephanie could be that person because they're not the same, you know, it's separate at that point, but until that person's hired, I would say Rachel or the, like, what else you got, COO or Director of Finance, I mean, your list is short, so,
I would talk to Rachel about
yeah.
it.
Okay, so for now,
Let me have that conversation with Rachel.
I
I said, let me have that
Alright,
conversation with
perfect.
Rachel.
We'll
before we
leave
put
it.
Anything like that on.
Yeah.
paper.
So then the next one was when we talk about supportive measures that the district can offer. We need to list out the ones that we may offer, and the ones that are in here currently are counseling, academic support, extension of deadlines or other program-related adjustments, restrictions on contact applied to one or more parties, leaves of absence, and training and education programs.
what is, counseling seems, too broad of a term. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I feel like, I know what we're trying to say, which is like access to school psychologists and, you know, but like, I don't know if counseling seems too broad.
I think we have that in. Yeah, that's what's currently in ACB. These measures may include but are not limited to counseling, extension of deadline. So it doesn't specify like district,
Yep.
counseling versus like external.
Yeah, I'm just thinking like if somebody said like, oh, I'd like you to,
I think we should specify district
Yeah.
counseling, 'cause I think it's our
yeah,
staff that we are.
like it's not like the
Providing
district's
us
offering
services.
to pay
And you
for
can put
external
counseling through
counseling.
district employees.
Yeah, okay, yep.
Yeah. And then
we should go back and.
Mhm. Are we missing any support? I compared it to ACB and all the ones that are listed there are listed here, but I didn't know.
Do we reference like, I don't know if this is this spot, but like non-retaliation?
It is later.
It's
yeah,
later, okay.
Yeah. So the other thing here with supportive measures is the timeline. The district typically renders decisions on supportive measures within, the default is 3 days of receiving a request.
Yeah, so we got all of these timelines from ATICSA, who's like the national organization
Okay.
on Title IX. The statute itself leaves it up to districts, so you're free to manipulate this however you want. Just there was a lot of back and forth with a lot of their conferences, and these are the numbers they landed at, and so internally we felt comfortable with those numbers as well, but it's up to you guys.
And I would go along with what the recommendations are from you,
And that's, yeah.
so.
I mean, like I said, unless someone said, hey, listen, that, you know, our experience is that's awfully difficult to comply within 3 days, do we do something 4 or 5, you do have some flexibility, but.
Are you comfortable with 3, Ken?
Yeah, I would leave it at that.
So the next timeline question, Andrew, this is where we had our, because there, what was the word that we were, the promptly. I think instead of promptly now, we have a number, which is the Title IX coordinator conducts an initial evaluation within 7 days of receiving a complaint.
And that is in,
That's the ATICS, and again, don't
Yeah.
forget, that's, conducts the initial evaluation, so that's basically determining, do we actually have a violation of Title IX? Do we have something that, if alleged, would not be a Title IX violation, in which case you'd put it aside, so, I mean, I feel like 7 days is an adequate time to make that
not to
determination.
decide, but like, not follow
Well,
this process.
I'm
Just
sorry.
saying, I'm just
Put it-
saying,
yes.
like,
Put it to
yeah,
a
I know what you meant,
different
but
process,
just to
yes.
clarify. Different, yeah, what page are you on, Jen?
I don't have I don't know where you all see the page numbers.
On the bottom, in the middle?
No, it's not there.
You legit don't see that, you don't see that? Scroll down.
It's not there.
Oh, you don't have breaks on your computer, that's why.
That's why, okay.
Like if you click on that line, it should split it, like, so see how I have like a break there?
Yeah,
It would split it and you would be able to see it, but that's okay.
so I don't know
What section are you on then?
Under complaints.
Okay.
And then right there, under complaints, it's initial evaluation.
Thank you.
Ken, are you good with 7?
What do we, right now in the policy that we have,
I think it's promptly.
I have way too many tabs open.
It's actually horrifying.
My
Your tabs.
tabs,
Yeah.
I know, and I have 3 windows too. It's my brain right now.
Yes, that's clear.
Yeah, there's no timeline in the current policy.
I mean, I think we have to go with 7 if that's what the national recommendation is. It also seems reasonable. If you got something and it sits on your desk for more than 7 days, like, we got a problem.
Yeah, not for the initial
Yeah.
stage.
Yeah,
but
for
that
like
really-
the initial review,
yeah,
like that
yeah.
is concerning on
Yeah.
a different level, so I feel like that's the recommendation. You know, that gives you weekends and, you know, whatever built in, but, cause it's not 7 business days, it's 7 days, period. So that could give you a long weekend, you get back, you need to review it.
Yeah, I think 7 days is more than reasonable.
Ken, are you okay with that?
Yes.
Instead of prompting?
Yeah, if that's what the
That's what it
reasons
recommends,
recommends,
yeah.
then yes.
I would say like they need to do like ideally I would want it to read that the initial evaluation is done like as soon as possible.
I mean, when we get
no
something,
later
I
than
mean, we're
within.
looking,
Yeah,
we're
I
looking
know,
into it right
yeah.
away, it might not be a full investigation, but
Yeah.
we're inquiring, like,
Yeah,
what's.
and that's what this.
So-
Initial
Yeah.
evaluation
Yeah.
means read the document when it comes to you.
Yep.
Mhm.
Assess what you've
Do
got.
something, yeah.
Can we make it seem like it's no later
No
than
later
7,
than
kind of that
7.
same language we did with the policy earlier.
Yeah.
Like, as soon as possible, but no later than. I don't know if complaint needs to be capitalized in that next sentence. Unless it does, cause it's like a defined word above, maybe.
It is a defined word above, but not that one, because that's just a
Yeah.
complaint, not a,
Yeah, that's not like the thing.
oh, no, it is. Cause complaint is what's defined.
Okay.
The next one is just, once this is all formatted, we'll fill in which section the dismissal decision is located in this document. So the next timeline question is, investigations are completed expeditiously, normally within 60 days, although some investigations may take longer. Are you good with 60, Ken?
Yes.
So the investigator will offer both parties the opportunity to inspect and review any relevant and not otherwise impermissible evidence obtained as part of this investigation. Both parties will have 10 days to submit a written response to the evidence. So here we have the superintendent as the decision maker. I think that's correct. I just wanted to confirm. Or their designee or superintendent.
Yeah, it should be that, right?
Yeah, I think or their designee, right? Because if Ken's, if the superintendent is unavailable for some reason.
Yeah, you're in somebody.
Okay, I'll fill all those in. 10 days good there too for the, timeline?
You're in the review period investigative
Yep.
report, correct? Yes.
Mhm.
I just use that same language there, Jen, superintendent or designee.
Okay. So I'll fill in or designate on all the, So following a determination that the respondent engaged in sex discrimination, including sex-based harassment and retaliation, the following range of possible disciplinary sanctions may be imposed. Under student sanctions, what's listed in there is default, is disciplinary sanctions of any violation of this policy may include but are not limited to loss of privilege to participate in extracurricular activities including athletics and school social events, assignment of additional schoolwork or community service, and suspension or expulsion.
I don't love the sentence, assignment of additional schoolwork, is that normal?
Nope. I mean, that.
You know what I
that's-
mean, like, I
yeah.
understand, like, I like education, I understand educational
That
sanctions.
seems dated.
Huh?
That seems dated, to be honest with you.
Yeah, like, I just feel, I think, I understand the intent, like, and I understand it could be, you know, having to write a paper about something, or, you know, like, I believe in educational sanctions, just additional schoolwork sounds punitive, like, you need to do, you know, these extra worksheets
Yeah.
or something.
And it's similar to
Right
the
on the
community
right-
service.
right
I
on
don't think
the
you can
base, yeah.
enforce community service, but we have had circumstances where a student and their family has, you know, yes, we'll go do this, we'll volunteer
Yeah.
here or do something here, so.
But we can't mandate community service.
No.
No, so that shouldn't be in there.
I would probably align it to whatever we're doing. I would take both of those out, to be honest, and just say, because you could, participation in extracurricular activities and school social events, that is within our purview, because those are, whatever Rob always says, privileges, not rights. And then suspension or expulsion. Like, I feel like beyond, I wouldn't wanna put those other ones in at this point, like,
We don't expel anymore either.
I know,
Yeah.
I don't know. Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, in Rhode Island, technically expulsion is just through the remainder of the year, but if you wanna, like, still a suspension, so.
I would actually put something in there referring to restorative justice versus schoolwork or community service.
Should we just reference, do we
Too.
have, I know that the committee, but like, we're not far enough ahead to reference that
Mhm.
piece of it, like,
Yeah.
so. I think you should be
Ref- to
consistent with our
reference what?
other, the discipline stuff that we're working on the other advisory committee.
Even, I think referring to restorative justice practices, I mean, that's,
Mm.
to me, that's, I think, more of what students will learn from than giving them additional schoolwork.
So, include but not limited to loss of privilege to participate in extracurricular activities including athletics and school social events, restorative, justice practices, and suspension. Would education fall under restorative justice practice? Ken?
Yes. Yeah, I would say that would part of
That's
it
like
is
an
you're
umbrella.
learning,
Yeah.
you're learning more about what you did and
And then employee sanctions, disciplinary sanction for any violations policy may include but are not limited to verbal or written warning, suspension, termination, or filing of criminal charges as warranted.
Why doesn't it say that for the
I was just gonna say
student?
that should be under student also.
That's not really a sanction though, like,
Mm.
if you broke that, like, we don't control that, right? Like, if we think you violated a law, we're reporting it to the North Kingstown Police Department and they handle it,
Yeah.
right? Like, so that is not a sanction from us, that is just practice if a law is broken in the
Right.
state of Rhode Island kind of energy, and so I actually don't think that should be under sanctions. Like, it's definitely should be in this policy somewhere about referring to the NKPD, but I don't think that that's in the right spot,
I
personally.
think it is in here somewhere.
Yeah, I would imagine. It's in the process, like the
I'll
process.
scan down and see if it's down lower.
But I don't think it should be under sanctions, cause sanctions are things that we control, like disciplinary sanctions are what we're controlling.
So, would it also be, cause it looks like we have additional ones included in ACB for employees, which would be withholding of a promotion or pay increase, reassignment.
where do you see that?
That's in the current policy under disciplinary sanctions.
Like, is that,
I'm sorry, I was looking for the
Sorry.
referral to the police, what was the question?
So our current policy says that a disciplinary sanction that we may impose upon an employee include withholding of promotion or pay increase and reassignment. I guess technically reassignment could be for student or employee.
Yeah,
it
you could
doesn't say,
absolutely
yeah.
reassign someone, and I mean, I think withholding of promotion is a little, I mean, I think you could, I guess if the person was simultaneously going for a promotion and you said, no, you violated
That's
Title IX,
done.
so you're not getting that promotion.
Right.
that seems, I don't,
Yeah, I prefer the generic.
the reassignment
especially-
one makes sense for me, like if it's in, like especially for students, like
Yeah.
moving them to a different class
Yeah,
or, you know, something like
moving someone
that.
to a different school or something like that,
Yeah, but the promotion thing seems odd to me.
Okay, but if you have someone that you're promoting based on moving up into a higher position, you're making that promotion based on their job
Yeah,
performance, their
disciplinary, yeah.
work ethics, what they can do, and then if you have someone that you're now disciplining,
Yeah,
I
and
would
I guess
certainly
suggest
factor
it is
in,
going
right?
to. I mean, I'm not gonna make a recommendation to
Yeah.
move someone up to a higher position if they just violated the policy or there's concerns regarding their behavior.
it doesn't se- it seems, I think it's because it's under the part of sanctions,
Mhm.
like what you just said is very normal. But like this is to me, like it sounds like, oh, you did X, so now you can't be
Mhm.
Y. Like they're not, it's not a sanction, like
It's not a
part of their
direct
overall
result of
thing,
that.
and that'll be considered in promotion, so we could say it maybe like that, like, but,
But it's not some, like, this would be something, this act occurred, and as
yeah,
a
in your letter, you would
consequence
say
for
boom, boom, boom,
this,
boom, boom,
we are going to, but it wouldn't say,
withhold all further promotions
right.
forever.
No, I'm just saying, if it happened within a time period of that person being considered for a promotion.
so
I
I
mean, I'm
think,
not gonna hold it against you for the next
Mm-hmm.
indefinite future, but if right now someone was being,
Alright, so we should look at how to write that if we're gonna keep it in.
so maybe instead of reassignment and job assignment?
I don't mind reassignment, I didn't have a problem with reassignment, it was the
Reassignment.
other part that I had the problem with. I don't know where it went though.
It was never in here,
Oh, it was in the other one.
it was in the other one.
Is ACB on the agenda?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I made sure.
So, I do think we need to look at if we just wanna put this language in that other document, like, they're so similar, and like, I do think that, I understand and I hear Ken's point about the title, like, that it complicates things, but I wonder if there's a way that we could say, like, if this happens, like, this is what's followed, and then, like, if it's deemed to be Title IX, then you follow this. Like, I feel like having these documents separate, like, we're just gonna have to keep cross-referencing. Like, you don't wanna have different employee sanctions in one and then the other. You know, like, it has to
Right,
be
it has to be, and
the
that's
same,
why,
and that's why, so I think it does need to be combined. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
we should separate them, but I do think different, like, it could be different sections of, it doesn't have to be as melded maybe to make it easier for the administration to implement anti-harassment investigations, but
yeah, I mean, cause that's why, like, there are some distinct differences, and I don't think they should be, I think we need to
Yeah.
have them be the same, and so maybe the best thing to do is like archive, for lack of a better term, this policy, the ACB.
yeah,
And that's for anything from A1 or before, and then have a new policy that combines both, but just breaks it out by.
Maybe just get
industry.
this one passed, so we're in compliance,
Yeah.
and then, but then
Yeah, then we
piggyback
can
on
merge.
Yes.
and branch it out,
Yeah.
so these are all issues, how if Title IX go here,
Yep,
if
Yeah.
otherwise go here.
yeah,
go to, like, those books you used to read when you were a kid, like, go to page 7 if that, like, I just think, because if you get to a place where you have these differentials, like, it's gonna be
It's
very
gonna
confusing,
be
and
like-
then also when
yeah.
there's that crossover,
it's gonna be
Like,
like with the
yeah.
R and the other, and that's why
Yeah,
we
that's not the
combine them,
goal.
because they
Yeah.
live
Yep.
in two
so we
different
can,
places.
I'm fine moving it forward, passing it, but then I think we need to put it back on and circle back, because it's gonna get too complicated.
I agree. So are we putting promotion in here, or are we leaving it out?
Instead of saying withholding a promotion, could it say, like, impacting, or like consideration? Like, you know what I mean, like,
Consideration of promotion.
yeah, like, it basically says, like, this is gonna go in your file as you are trying to move up in the organization, it may affect that, but it's not, again, I think with holding a promotion feels odd to write in a sanction section for Title IX.
Consideration for promotion.
Negatively impacting consideration of promotion, right? Otherwise, we'd say the disciplinary sanction for violation of this
Oh, you're
policy
right.
would be consideration of a promotion.
That's what I was, yeah. Oh, it's
What was the
definitely
word
out
you
there.
said, Andrew?
Oh, I forgot now.
Sorry, Kevin and I were
Negatively
talking about
impacting
it.
or something to that effect.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I think that makes more sense, cause to Ken's point, if that just happens and then you're applying to be the department head, it could negatively impact your
Right.
your promotion, but it doesn't make it sound as or withholding this as in your
Right.
thing.
So following a determination that the respondent engaged in discrimination, possible remedies may be provided to prevent future occurrence, and these are listed as referral to counseling and health services, referral to the EAP, education to the individual and or community, permanent alteration of work arrangements for employees, policy modification and or training, provision of transportation assistance. So these are the things that we would do following a finding that there was sex discrimination occurring. We would implement these things potentially. So same thing with the counseling, we can't mandate external counseling, so.
No, but if they go through the AAP, they can get counseling services through that program.
So they're provided but not mandated.
Right, so it's right, so even if it's not there, if it's referral to referral to an EAP, one of the services through the EAP would be counseling.
So
we could
that's
say
for
counseling
employees, what about
services.
for students?
For students, it would be counseling or health services from the school department.
So I think we
School
just need to add
department.
from the
Mhm.
school department.
School department-based counseling and health
Yeah.
services,
Yeah.
referral to an employee assistance program.
Mhm.
Referral to the EAP, education to the individual and or community, permanent alteration of work arrangements for employees, policy modification, and then provision of transportation assistance, what would that be?
Well, if it is a student, it might depend on how they're getting to
Like
school.
bus.
If an incident happened with a
Person
bus,
on their bus, yeah.
might have to change buses or provide other sorts of transportation for them.
Okay. Alright, so are we good with these? I'll change superintendent, so all appeal requests must be in writing and filed with. Who is the appeal decision maker, is that?
I mean, we left that unnamed, and I think a recent case that we had probably points to that. It's a good idea to leave it unnamed. Again, being a small district, depending on how many people are involved in the actual investigation and the process, you could.
You can't say it's the assistant super, the super,
Right,
because if they're
and that's the case
involved.
that Ken and I just dealt with, where I think we actually used Aubrey in my office as someone, because everyone here had been involved in some portion of the investigation. I had been involved in reviewing the report, so really, I think
Okay.
I would just leave that as we have an appeal decision maker, and we know that it's someone who's neutral, who hasn't been involved in any of the phases of the investigation up to that time, and leave it at that.
Okay.
We would obviously do that in-house if, the circumstances allowed for it.
And so I'm gonna assume that the timelines laid out here are fine, 5 and 10 days.
Yeah, it's a very narrow window to appeal those decisions, so
Okay.
it's not nearly as onerous as the original investigation.
so the training piece, it says that they will be held onto for 7 years, the materials that are used for training, which is a change from the prior policy.
I think it's a requirement now.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
I
so
just want,
that's
I just wanna
definitely-
say it out loud so
Yeah.
that everybody
Yeah.
hears that they
Yeah.
have to be kept.
Yeah, they have to be archived for, which makes sense because of because that's the same statute. Like, so if they wanna know, like, hey, was an employee trained on X, like, you need to have those archives,
What they
so.
were actually doing,
yeah.
so that, cause before we said they were just gonna be made available, now we're saying they can be made available, but we're going to hold on to them for 7 years.
That was in the previous, it's in the current policy as well.
7 years?
So under record keeping, it says the district will document and maintain for a period of 7 years, and it has reports for discrimination, formal complaints, and training.
Oh, yeah.
It's here.
Oh,
It's like
it's
kind
on
of
top,
reference
okay,
like that,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, alright, good. So we're already doing it. Okay, so that was the template as provided, and we touched on all the fill in the blanks, so, I think, like we discussed, we move this forward, we get this going since it's effective August 1st, and then we review this with the ACB to see how we can
Remerge them.
remerge.
Yep. But also we have, do we also need to make a motion to move forward ACB to remove any reference to Title IX, because we don't, or do we wanna just put something that
No,
says
you-
like,
no,
No,
you
we
wanna
can't,
keep
we
it.
have to
Can't.
keep
Yeah.
that.
no, I know we have to keep it, but we can't have two policies, like, we need to at least, like, on ACB, write,
Which
like,
is at the top.
yeah,
Yeah.
the date
Yeah.
effective.
Yep.
August
Yeah.
1st,
I'm sorry, I
2024.
forgot.
Yeah, for Title
Don't
IX
worry, it
complaints
wasn't set, but you know what I mean, like, we don't
Yeah.
have two sitting out
Yeah,
there,
that
like,
that you can't look at
before
both and figure out
we-
what's happening.
Yeah.
1000%.
So we'll modify ACB currently to just say for Title IX complaints filed before
Prior,
August
yeah.
1st,
Yeah.
yep, okay.
yeah,
should be
and I
relevant.
think that, and because it sounds silly with the school committee, that should just probably go in front of the school
Oh,
committee.
yeah,
We'll-
yeah,
so
yeah,
that way,
yeah.
we're good for
Yeah.
now, and then we can go back and, figure out how to remerge them. I did go back up to page 8 and I added 2 other, possible supportive measures. Adjustment to class or schedule, and then also providing like an escort to or from class or arranging for early dismissal for class so that they're not passing at the same time. I was Googling some other like districts, what they have, so we can take those out, but those are some other like things that seem to make
Yep.
sense to me as far as supportive measures for students, that would make sense. Alright, so do you need a motion?
Do you want 2
Alright,
motions?
so I'll move it forward.
I'll second. All in favor? Okay. And then I'll make a motion to modify ACB to include the notation that it's for Title IX complaints filed prior to 8/1.
Isn't it though,
It's not filed, it's the incident occurred.
Incident
Oh,
occurred.
incident
Yep.
occurred, okay.
and then also, aren't there anti-harassment, like, the anti-harassment ones will still be in effect,
Yes.
right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
so
yep.
I
So
would
basically,
reference
the way
that
that'll
too,
read
though.
is, we might need to, maybe we can work on that, Jen, I'll make a note here, we'll put something on top that'll say, with respect to Title IX, allegations, or
Yeah.
allegations that are found to be Title IX related, those would go to this policy if the alleged incident occurred, before August 1st.
Yep.
Because you're right, cause that
Yeah.
policy is gonna still carry though
Yeah,
for now,
yeah.
for any non-Title IX.
Yeah, for
Yep.
now.
Okay, okay. Can I get a vote on that?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor?
I,
Okay. Okay, perfect. So the next meeting is scheduled for August 7th at 4:30. Ken, you gave me that date, don't make a
No, I'm just checking, because I had it on my calendar twice, so
Oh,
I'm
I
just
have it,
Okay.
7th,
taking
you
it
said the
off the
7th?
Isn't that next week?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
It is, that was
Yeah.
just looking at August with everything.
yeah,
Yep, I told Ken to give me 2 dates that he
Got
could
it.
do before the 20th, and those were the 2 that he gave me. So,
What are we placing on the agenda for that?
I would like to circle back to the ones that we had been waiting for. We still need to discuss the bus one, so those will go back on. I just wanna have a bigger discussion on that. And then the rest of them are all kind of waiting for input from you and your team, so whatever you're gonna be prepared to discuss. I think the ones that we had said should be resolved before the school year started were,
We have dress code, grading, physical restraint, and attendance.
yep,
Mhm.
those.
yeah.
Why don't we put those 4 on,
Okay,
and then that way we,
dress code, grading, attendance, and physical restraint. Yep, okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.